Yeah, we're going to take a break and first talk to the filmmakers for the two films we just watched. And we are joined by Hosea Jemba, who is a co-writer and producer for Rolex, and also Loukman Ali, who is the writer, director, cinematographer, and editor of The Blind Date. I will ask them a few questions, and to all the audiences watching on the live stream, please put your questions and maybe some comments in the chat, and we will get to them in a few. So please do that and show your appreciation, ask some questions, any curiosities about the film. I'll start with talking to Hosea, who did Rolex. Film. It's a production from Swans Avenue, which is a household name in Uganda for its record label, its music production, audio production, video production. So it's quite an honor to have you guys make such something that stood out for me was the production because the film is shot entirely at night with such great visuals, and the lighting is amazing. It's really great to look at. So Jose, if you could tell us what that experience was like, making a film all set at night, what that experience was like.
Thank you, Sharon. What can I say? Thank you for the festival. This is all going well. I enjoyed watching it with the lens of a festival, and I liked it. Rolex. Initially, it was supposed to be a one-night shoot, and Swangs has a word film in its own so many entities. So for a long time, they really want. We always say we're going to do films. So in this particular case, we shortlisted stories, and they say, okay, let's do something quick. And we, Benon had this story, and we put it out, we wrote it together, and then we zeroed on it. And the aim was to show some production value. There are so many things that have been covered in Uganda, but there are some things that are lagging behind, but like night shooting. Every time there's a night shooting, it's a dilemma. Lighting is bad, and stuff. And we're like, let's kind of show off. So we chose a story that purely is all happening in one night, and so we went at it, not really to show off, but to show that this is also possible. That so many filmmakers were struggling with night shoots and lighting. So we wanted to break that barrier and say, no more saying you can't shoot at night. Basically, we went for it.
And you really showed, because it's really, really great. I would also be confident about shooting at night after seeing that. Great work. And you've spoken about the writing, and I really like what the film does, specifically how the plot is mostly shown. There's not much dialogue in the film. It's all shown, and it makes the experience even that more thrilling. Could you tell us also about that writing process? Was that something you were also thinking about initially when writing the script and it went over into production?
No, that happened by chance. The story itself happens to have, it happens to have really not a lot of points to talk about, in particular of dialogue. But also wanted something that would be easy to cut across, in terms of so the director was really strong on getting the characters, even if there was a lot they said, but in the edit they cut them out. If the action fits, cut it out, not talking. The director is more of a character person than dialogue. And I think that somehow favored us leaning towards that. The director, Benon.
Oh, okay. That's really great. I think, let me talk to Loukman as well. Your is also really great and phenomenally produced. the production values. It sets the tone so well, and the visual effects are a feast. Thank you for that. And you note that The Blind Date, it's episode 1 for a crime anthology, and your films, you have some previous films which have also showed at this festival that are in this thriller type action genre. I was wondering if you have a reason why you picked particular genre of crime. Loukman? You're mute. Unmute. Unmute.
Oh, there it is. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Sorry, this is like the second time I'm using this app. Yeah. You asked why did I pick this genre specifically?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know why. I guess it speaks to me more. There's other things that I've wanted to do, but I feel like crime thrillers are really cheap. They're like horror films. They're really cheap to make. So I feel like it's kind of like the go-to for all broke filmmakers. Like that's the easy one, because you have a few characters probably stuck in like one location, and it's easier to shoot that. I have ideas of, like, there's big films that happen in like what are they called, like a period piece or that kind of stuff, but I can't attempt. I feel like I'm not yet ready for that. So it's not really a thing of choosing. It's more like the genre chooses itself because it knows how much money I have at the moment, which is not much. Yeah.
You're talking about it being cheap, but the effects are so good. Is that also how are you able to achieve something looking that great? You're calling it cheap, it looks expensive to me. Like just even that image there's when Wawio is in that car and he's all greasy, the lights, it looks, it's stunning, and I'm shocked that you're calling it cheap. I don't know how that works. Yeah.
Yeah, it is it is actually cheap, because that film was shot on a Blackmagic, which is a relatively cheap camera to get a hold of. And the effects, I happen to have a background in visual effects, so I do most of those things myself. They're not really that good actually compared to what the big studios have, but I guess if the story works, the effects just complement what's there. If the effects were more expensive, they would have looked more massive. Those are just mostly cheats, really. Yeah, they're cheats. So anyone who knows anything about visual effects, like if the visual effects savvy people watching, they're like, oh, look at that. That's not nice. But it fools regular people, so I guess that's all right.
Yeah, keep fooling us, please. This is a question for both of you, because you think your films both have a film about greed, because both films have this, the characters go further than me as a viewer. I'm like, that's unnecessary, and they get paid, like it comes back at them. There's like a karma circle towards them. Reason why you both have this theme about the world that you chose this particular film? I'll start with Hosea. What are your thoughts?
No, there is no particular. I remember in the discussion where we all said we need a story that has a bag full of money, and then blood, and then some guns. That's all. Those are the three items we listed, and then we wrote backwards because it's one of those easiest ways to get a story. Like a bag full of money makes a good watch anywhere, whatever storyline it is. Then of course we wanted to show some guns because so many short stories from the continent are of course stories about love, some stories who broke whose heart, and we're like, we didn't want to be violent per se, but let's show some action, some nightlife. Take people to some nightlife they never know. Like you go to sleep and wake up and there is this story you missed. So that was our approach. There weren't anything to do. Of course, the grid was, we wanted to, Benon wanted to show that full circle of in Uganda, it's called Okalia Dakar. Like you do some dirty stuff, but it catches up with you. So when it said we go for that story, we went for the story. But basically, we just chose money, blood, and some guns, which are really key factors in any action film.
Great. Loukman, before you answer, let me give you this question from the audience. Someone says, why didn't you give some action between the father and the kidnapper? That confrontation would have been epic. It would have brought out the father's character more bolder. Do you have something to say about that choice?
Yeah, I think that's a different movie they're talking about. In this particular movie, that doesn't happen. So that's why we didn't do it.
And similarly, someone is asking if you're both inspired by crime stories because both your films have robbers as the lead characters.
No, actually,
Loukman, go first.
Loukman, go first.
Yeah. So my story is actually my main character is the lady, and my film originally was a love story that just went kind of out of control. It's called The Blind Date because the idea was that these two meet in a blind date kind of setting. They're both each one is in a different cell. They never get to see each other, and they kind of they're kind of on a date while they're in prison. So that's why it's called a blind date, because that's kind of like the first time they meet and they get to know each other. I was supposed to have more of that, but I guess I'm such a bad writer. I'm just learning how to write, and I'm like in the early stages where I'm so afraid of like going too far with a certain like with words. So my script is basically wordy things and then action. Words, and then action. So I saw that there was a lot of things being said and less action. So I cut down on what they were saying in the prison. But the original idea was in the prison. That's where they're supposed to get to know each other and kind of date, and that's where the name comes from. So my main person is the lady. So our stories are not similar. We don't necessarily have the same main characters. Mine is the female.
Okay. Hosea?
Crime. Yeah. Crime has a lot of stories that are really untapped, and it has also potential to go in any direction. This short is supposed to be part of a bigger feature film. So we wanted to shoot like a scene within the big feature film. And that's it's going to be a crime drama, of course. And so crime, we inspired by crime. Yeah, the whole team was really inspired by crime dramas.
Okay. Someone has a question for you as well, Hosea. They're asking you, could you tell them about your choice to film in Uganda because they really, really love it?
Our choice to film in Uganda?
Luganda, the language Luganda.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I was going to say Uganda, it's my country. Okay, Luganda. Yeah, it's the approach to this is to make the production, meet international film lovers halfway, but also to keep it as local as possible. So the script was actually written in English, but during the acting, the director asked the actors to express in whichever language they want. Like if there was anyone from any tribe, if you're part of the gang, he would, the director would ask them, would you feel comfortable, like in that character, to start speaking English, or this is Uganda, this is local, right? So it gravitated towards Uganda, but it wasn't like it was supposed to be in Uganda in the first place. The script is written in English. They all had their sessions in English, but during the acting, the director asked them to be as natural as possible. Before we knew it, they are all acting in Uganda, and we liked it that way. We took it that way.
That's really great that it happened naturally that way. Loukman, someone wanted to know about the decision you made with the soundtracks because they found them quite thrilling. Like, how did you pick those soundtracks?
I am heavily inspired by spaghetti westerns, so that's what I grew up. That's what I grew up with, and to be honest, I want to make movies that make other people feel the same way I felt about films. That's really my goal with the whole filmmaking thing. I want to make movies that when other people watch them, they want to become filmmakers. So that's the reason I ended up with those soundtracks is because, like, for example, the end music, that's like my favorite song from the whole film. That came up from my olden days. I was watching The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly for a few dollars. More those cowboy films from those days. The music they use, just for me, that music just feels like movie. Like that's cinema. Like when I listen to that, that's a movie. It speaks movie to me. And there's also a song we made. A lot of people have been asking me for that song when these guys are entering the elevator, which is an original composition that the guys at Quad A just came up with. Like while we're editing, they came up with the music like right there and then. I had no input in that at all. But the general vibe of the film is that sort of Western mixed with a bit of African music, I guess. But that's what movies sound like to me. So that's why I go with that.
Great. Hosea, someone's asking why you chose to title the film with the name Rolex. Why did you choose that name?
Again, it's the story revolves around. Of course, we wanted it to feel at home, to stay home, and the story revolves around this Rolex that really goes bad and causes havoc in the end. Also, we wanted something that can be identified by any Ugandan. Really, if you're Ugandan and you don't know a Rolex, you need to check your citizenry. So we let's call it Rolex. Ugandans will relate to what this is. So we just want to make a story for Ugandans, and they then give us what they want. And so we wanted to make sure everything is kind of, it looks home. Rolex, everyone knows what a Rolex can do. So, and nightlife, Rolex is synonymous with nightlife. So all the boxes ticked, and hence Rolex. It was so originally called Rolex Killers. We fought with titles until the last minute. The executive producer Julia said, "No, we just call it Rolex."
Nice, I like it. It makes someone still remain curious of what could happen. I think my last question will go to Loukman. Someone's asking you also about language. Why did you use English and Runyankole? How did you zero down on those two languages?
For me, when it comes to language, it's pretty much the characters. So my main character and her dad, they just so happen to be from the western side of Uganda. So that I needed a bit of localness in there, I guess. So because it's a child and a parent. When I'm talking to my parents, we don't speak English. We speak our language. So that's where the Runyankore came in. Because I asked them, what language are you guys comfortable with that's not English? And they suggested that. Now, as for the rest of the film, it's in English because English is our language. As much as we tend to think that English is a foreign language, but it is our language, and it's an official language in Uganda. It's a language that we are beaten in school to learn. It's a language that was imposed on us for a long time. And I think we have a right to that language, no matter what people say. They can tell us that we're not allowed, we should use our own, but we own it. It is our language. And if you Googled Uganda official language, you'll see that English is probably up there. So we also deal with actors and crew members from different regions of the country. Some, like our main actors, much as they speak Luganda, they're not really comfortable delivering or acting in it. And also they have their language. The co-actors don't know it. So we just end up sticking to a language that we were all forced to learn in school, and we all know for sure that we all know. Yeah, and that's why we ended up using that. And actually because this has come up a lot for future projects, I think I am of the opinion that I will always do what feels comfortable for everyone. I'm not going to try so much to appeal to, because I know outsiders, most people from abroad prefer like a language that feels local to them. So for me, even going forward, I don't really care what the Oscars require. I'll do what feels natural to me. And we tend to speak a lot of English with my friends and pretty much everyone I know. So that's just my reality.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, I think we will close the Q&A now. The next film we're going to watch is called Spiral Bound, which is also in the thriller theme. Thank you so much, Loukman, and thank you so much, Hosea, and thank you so much to all the people who, you're saying?
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Ngalabi Film Festival, keep doing this. Gives us an opportunity to showcase what we can do, and probably even we'll do more. Next year we'll have bigger films.